Hey, guys, welcome back to my channel. This is a story of what if Naruto trained seriously, after the Sasuke retrieval arc. After Naruto and Sasuke's fight at the Valley of the End, Naruto has an epiphany, and everything he thought about changes. Now during his training trip with Jiraiya, the blonde trains like crazy, returning to the village, 2.5 years later, as a new shinobi. One who vows to protect the village even if it costs his life. However, those who knew his usual nature wished he didn't change. Before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, it means a lot to me, and check the description for the creator of this great fanfic. Now let's start the story. Author note: hi there and welcome to another chapter of regret. I have received a lot of great reviews about the fight between the Kyuubi and the Hachibi Jinchuriki. I was afraid that people would believe that Naruto wouldn't be able to face against a Jinchuriki such as Kurabi, but seeing as he lost in the end, even if he yielded, it was a nice fight. Naruto managed to use plenty of the jutsus he learned during his trip, and, with it, he managed to impress the Yondaime Reikage. Now, one would imagine what changes will occur afterwards to the actual plotline. Well, check it out. Chapter 16 Joint Venture. Jiraiya knew that in order to keep spies from finding Orochimaru's secrets, the man built his hideout like a maze. This way, the intruder would take forever to find what he was looking for, and when he did, certainly the snake Sannin himself would be there to greet him or her. The perverted Sannin could see detection seals located throughout his path, which were meant to detect those who were unaware of such a weak level of security. To a master of seals such as himself, bypassing this was a piece of cake. What infuriated Jiraiya was his inability of sensing Sasuke Uchiha's chakra. He knew that the traitor was here. But he couldn't pinpoint his exact location. All his sensory techniques brought him to the location he was now. The problem was that, while he managed to exclude almost the entire base, he still had 10 doors to search Sasuke. If he ever opened a wrong one, the noise created by it could alert his ex-comrade ahead of time. He needed to find Sasuke before Orochimaru found him. Closing his eyes, Jiraiya started focusing on his other senses, in order to determine Sasuke's position. He focused on chakra sensory abilities, even sounds created by the Uchiha would do. Suddenly, he perceived a small sound coming from the farthest doors. As he walked, he slowly understood what the sound was. The methodical sound of breathing one emits upon sleep was heard, and Jiraiya knew that only one noise could be heard. As soon as he stopped in front of the 4th floor on the right side, he opened it slightly to look inside. He smiled upon recognizing the traitor, sleeping peacefully on his bed. Perhaps, he was dreaming about killing his older brother. The perverted Sannin approached the bed, now without any care for his well-being, seeing as his mission was about to be completed. When he touched Sasuke's arm, though, the man was alerted by the sudden opening of Sasuke's eyes in response to a surprise attack. An explosion soon followed as Sasuke used a strong fireball technique and threw it at Jiraiya. The perverted evaded with ease and the attack opened a gigantic hole in the earth. The Sannin simply got up from the ground and cleaned his clothes, as he looked to the sun's direction. And there he stood, Uchiha Sasuke. The boy hadn't changed much, Jiraiya reasoned. He now wore an Otogakure's special outfit consisting of white shirt, black pants and a large rope belt. Jiraiya could see a sword behind Sasuke, which Jiraiya presumed to be another Kusanagi. Orochimaru wouldn't consider giving his precious Uchiha anything less. Jiraiya of the Sannin, what are you doing here? Sasuke asked with an arrogant tone. Jiraiya, though, only snorted at this kid's vague attempt at demanding anything of him. 3 years with the snake and already believing you can demand an explanation. You're 40 years too young to even demand anything out of me, brat. But if you must know, I'm here to capture you, Uchiha Sasuke. By associating with Konoha's vilest criminals, you are to be considered one as well. I'm not coming back until I achieve my vengeance. Once more, Jiraiya snorted at the kid. Whoever said that you had any say in this, kid? No matter how strong or capable you've become these last 3 years, even your brother is reluctant to engage with me in combat. What makes you think you're any better? Jiraiya knew that Itachi was a touchy subject to him, so he decided to explore. Jiraiya even revealed a smirk that showed how little threat Sasuke represented at the moment, which infuriated the stoic Uchiha. Not wasting time, Sasuke vanished from his position and appeared behind Jiraiya, as if he was showing the Sannin his impressive speed. Jiraiya, though, continued to smile and turned to meet the Uchiha. He could see that his fully evolved Sharingan was active, but that meant little to a Sannin. The kid wanted to show his speed. So, Jiraiya decided to indulge the Uchiha a bit. It should be quite amusing to watch Sasuke's foolish attempt at facing a Sannin. Sasuke attempted to attack Jiraiya, in the hopes of evading his capture. However, Sasuke was surprised when Jiraiya's hand was already positioned to grab his arm. His Sharingan told him to change the maneuver, so Sasuke flipped his body and aimed a fierce kick on Jiraiya's stomach. Once more, the pervert Sannin's arm was already positioned in front of Sasuke's foot. This time, instead of just showing, Jiraiya aimed a Rasengan at Sasuke's stomach, which sent him flying towards the nearby wall. Sasuke managed to replace himself at the last moment with a rock, but he suffered a great deal of damage because of Jiraiya's Rasengan. The Uchiha didn't have time to perform his Chidori-based techniques and he was now holding his injured stomach. All because he thought he could take on a Sannin. He was about to summon his cursed chakra level 1 when Sasuke sensed his sensei approaching. Quite pitiful, oh pride of the Uchiha clan. Certainly Itachi wouldn't have a problem dodging this technique. I even recall that my student Naruto could dodge that without much effort. Jiraiya charged now with full intent of dealing with the brat. However, he caught movement from the corner of his eye and dodged the snake attack, courtesy of his former comrade Orochimaru. As he looked to his right, he saw both Orochimaru and Kabuto looking at him with a predatory smile on their faces. It was indeed surprising to them how Jiraiya managed to avoid the detection seals. They shouldn't be, however, seeing as the man's knowledge of seals surpassed Orochimaru's. I certainly didn't expect that Tsunade would send you to deal with Sasuke-kun, Jiraiya. It wasn't a smart move, considering that you're now alone against us three. Once more, the pervert smirked. You, better than most, know that numbers mean nothing to me. Now, I was hoping to take on Sasuke and leave before you and your little pet arrived. I guess I overestimated my abilities. If Kabuto was affected by Jiraiya's nickname for him, he didn't show it. Orochimaru just smirked, though, in amusement. You are a failure and will always be considered as such. If you thought that you could escape with Sasuke without me knowing about it, you're even more of a disgrace than I thought. Well, I'd hate to cut our meeting short, Orochimaru. But I'm afraid I must report my failure to Tsunade Haim. See ya, oh and Sasuke, despite everything, I can tell that you're weaker than my student. Even with your Sharingan and the cursed seal, you're no match for him. I'll be going now. Kabuto tried to intercept him by launching a chakra scalpel attack at the pervert, but to his dismay, the Jiraiya was merely a mud clone, which meant that the real one was far by now. Orochimaru frowned in dismay at Jiraiya's sudden appearance. In this type of situation, the pervert would attempt to take care of the three by himself, in hopes of killing Orochimaru once and for all. Perhaps, Jiraiya's mission wasn't to capture Sasuke, but Orochimaru couldn't figure out what Jiraiya's real intention could be. Throughout the entire confrontation, Jiraiya's reaction didn't alter like usual. He was smiling the entire time and that in itself was troubling. He, then, turned to Sasuke and couldn't see much despite the fact the Uchiha was doubled over in pain right now, because of the Rasengan. He now had to destroy the base and look out for another one, as Jiraiya would reach Konoha soon and send a full battle squad here. Kabuto, we'll have to switch bases. Prepare to move in 4 hours tops. Oh, and treat Sasuke-kun's wounds, will ya? At Kumogakure it had been 2 days since the fight between the strongest Jinchurikis out there and right now, the Konoha delegation was inside the Raikage's office, waiting for the man's reply to Konoha's letter. The man supposed it was a blessing that the Hokage sent a team to his village. Perhaps, if he was busy with something else, then he wouldn't be able to stop the Akatsuki from capturing the two-tailed Jinchuriki ni Yugito. The Raikage didn't perceive the organization as dangerous, before seeing what he saw 2 days ago. Upon arriving with a full Anbu squad in the sewers and was shocked to see Yugito covered by her blood, pinned to the wall by a metal rod. The fact that a Jinchuriki, even one of Yugito's level, lost to high-ranking shinobi didn't even compare to the danger posed by only one member of the organization. Kakuzu, S-ranked missing nin from Takigakure occupied the top entries of Kumo's bingo book and it had been since the Raikage was born. According to the information provided by Konoha, along with Kakuzu, the organization had also Uchiha Itachi, Hoshigaki Kisame, Deidara and Sasori as known members. The Raikage knew that any of these names could easily obliterate an entire village. Presuming that there is one shinobi who's commanding these missing nins, then it's plausible to assume that whoever the leader is, he was stronger than them. The Raikage couldn't think of names, other than the cages themselves that could be stronger. At least, with Yugito saved, it was considered a victory against such a worthy adversary. Now, the man was 100% sure of his next step. Konohagakure showed him that they were more prepared to face the organization than Kumo was. They had the intel. Jiraiya of the Sannin was perhaps the world's top information-gathering expert, and the fact that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki faced 4 members and dealt with 2 showed him that this Naruto person has what it takes to face them. Add Kurabi to the mix and they could, together, defeat the Akatsuki once and for all. Placing one against the other brought fruits after all. After finishing the letter, the Raikage signed it and gave it to Kakashi. Kakashi-san, in the name of my village, I'll accept the intel on the Akatsuki. I'll ask that you deliver this reply letter to the Hokage. Its contents are privy to her, so I trust that someone of your reputation understands the importance of what I just said. Kakashi, for his chance, just nodded and opened an empty scroll on top of the Raikage's desk. He sealed the Raikage's reply letter inside the scroll and bowed to the lightning shadow Raikage. In Kakashi's opinion, the Raikage didn't need to bother, since he wasn't that interested in opening it. The Hokage would tell him anyway. Do not worry, Raikage-sama. The letter is safe with me. We'll be leaving now. The team from Konoha bowed in respect, before leaving the office. 2 seconds later, both Yugito and Kurabi shunshined inside the Raikage's office, as per the man's calling. He needed Kurabi to report the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's abilities, so that they could discuss and probably learn more from him. Being a Jinchuriki, it didn't take long for Yugito to heal most of her wounds and be discharged from the hospital. The woman was curious about this Naruto person, who happened to possess the strongest of the tailed beasts inside of him. Bro, that Naruto fellow is one piece of work. He managed to plan ahead of me and used that hip fuinjutsu on me. He is more cunning than the animal who lives inside of him. Besides that, he has some nice Fuden and Sweden techniques, not to mention his skills with the Bojutsu. Overall, I'd say he was a low Junin level. Kurabi reported, earning a nod from the Raikage. Yugito, though, was perplexed. Kurabi was forced to use his full transformation to deal with a low Junin shinobi. She was considered a low-level Junin and she couldn't handle Kurabi. Pardon Kurabi-sama, Raikage-sama, but how can this be? Kurabi is high-level Junin to Kage level. The Raikage nodded, before clearing his throat a bit. As my brother said, the boy is cunning. Without the beast's chakra, I'd say that Kurabi would be able to win the match. If Naruto didn't send 5 of his swords flying, then Kurabi would be able to deal with Naruto. The boy managed to plan ahead. He waited for Kurabi to transform, before using a strange type of seal that cuts the link between Jinchuriki and demon. After that, he used his own demon's chakra and overcame the weakened Kurabi. Even if the brat yielded in the end, I would have granted the victory to him. Still, it doesn't change the fact that Kurabi is stronger than Naruto. Yugito nodded, while slowly trying to gather as much information as possible regarding the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Kurabi, though, never left the smile off his face. The 9-0 will surpass me in no time, though. He has half my age and it's already causing me trouble. And quite frankly, I would enjoy fighting on his side. The Raikage appeared stoic on the outside, but he could see the fire on Kurabi's eyes. He could only smile, though. B would have what he wished for, in the end. At Konoha it didn't take more than 3 days for Naruto's team to arrive in Konoha. The team went afterwards to the Hokage's office, where Kakashi reported everything. After Tsunade heard everything, she looked at Naruto for an instant, before rubbing her forehead. No matter what this boy did or didn't do, it always gave her a nasty headache. However, she relaxed once she heard that nobody was heavily injured. Tsunade was shocked that Akatsuki managed to invade a heavily secured village such as Kumogakure and even managed to win against the Nibi Jinchuriki. They almost succeeded in leaving Kumo if the Raikage wasn't fast enough. In the end, the mission was a success, which was a surprise. Tsunade was also surprised when Kakashi gave her a letter of reply written by the Raikage himself. Great job all of you, I'll be reading the letter. As of right now, Team Kakashi deserves a 2-day rest, dismissed. Everyone nodded and left for the day. Kakashi and Yamato called Naruto aside and urged him to follow. Since they arrived in the morning, they could use time to train and improve Naruto's control over the fox's chakra. The Chunin wanted none of that, however, as he didn't enjoy it much. Also, he couldn't tell them about his pact with the fox. He already could use 3 taels worth of chakra, but it was useless in his opinion. In his opinion, controlling 2 tails of chakra was more powerful than using 5, without any form of control. He remembered the Hachibi Jinchuriki and how he managed to use 8 tails. Nevertheless, he figured that with Kakashi and Yamato's experience, they might come up with several good exercises to improve his control over the fox's chakra. He just hoped that Yamato's control over the fox was better than Jiraiya's seal. Once they reached the training ground, Naruto looked around for a bit. They had traveled a great distance away from the population, so that when Naruto used the fox's chakra, none of them could feel anything. Naruto, as far as I can see, your level of control over the fox's chakra reached the impressive barrier of 2 tails. Seeing as we have 2 days of rest, we'll focus on reaching the 3rd tail. Now, let me explain what Yamato will be doing. While you focus on using the fox's chakra, he'll use his technique in order to suppress the fox's will. Now, why don't you use 2 tails, so we can begin? Yamato, you are free to begin. Both Chunin and Junin nodded. Yamato took a seat on the ground and started a long series of hand seals, before 5 wooden pillars rose around him. Naruto, then, closed his eyes 1 second to focus. When he opened, the red cloak began to envelop him, as was expected. His hair was more spiked and both his teeth and nails were sharpened. His whisker marks were more defined. A minute later, 1 tail appeared behind him and then the other. Kakashi could feel the oppressing aura all around him. However, he could see that besides that, Naruto was perfectly calm. It was a true testament to his will. Now, Naruto, I want you to use a 3rd tail. Don't worry, Yamato is here to help you subdue the fox. The Chunin nodded, before clenching his fists. This would be his 2nd time with 3 tails and the first wasn't pretty. His body suddenly had the urge to bend over, like a fox would. An evil aura began to form a whirlpool around his body as the 3rd tail was formed. By this time, a drop of sweat was already formed on Yamato's face. He only knew the theory behind this technique. He had no idea how much chakra he would use to control a few minutes of the fox's chakra. When the 3rd tail appeared behind Naruto, both Kakashi and Yamato could hear the blondes growling. Kakashi could see that Naruto's entire body was trembling. In his right mind, Naruto was trying to control his own urges, influenced by the fox. At this state, Naruto wanted nothing more than to engage against the enemy. Naruto maintained a leveled breathing. He had to remain calm, so that he could adapt to the 3-tailed state without fear of becoming a liability in missions. It was hard, though, he reasoned. Every inch of his body demanded blood, with only his brain in the way. He had to keep pure thoughts on his mind, or else he would succumb. Right now, neither Kakashi nor Yamato could stop him, if Yamato's technique failed. It would take 1 small slip and a 4th tail would appear. He couldn't know what would happen, but he doubted that anyone would be able to stop him. Alright Naruto, that's enough. Stop using the fox's chakra. Kakashi's demand was a blessing. 1 tail at a time, Naruto managed to cut the link. He was on its knees soon after. Yamato thanked Kakashi as well, but the scarecrow Junin was busy analyzing Naruto's situation. So far, the only element that is able to hold the Kyuubi's chakra was Naruto's own chakra. His chakra would strengthen the seal, which would control the fox's chakra as well. That meant that for the blonde to control more of Kyuubi's chakra, he would have to possess more chakra. Kakashi knew only one way of doing that. Exhausting his chakra supply every day, so that when Naruto wakes up, his chakra capacity will increase. It would require more than 2 days for that, he reasoned. However, given Naruto's skills, it would be unreasonable to take him off active missions for a while. He could perform exhausting exercises on his relaxing days. It was time to kick it up a notch and both Kakashi and Yamato would have to step in. He approached the two and began to explain his theory. Okay, listen up you two. Instead of forcing Naruto to adapt to the fox's chakra, I believe it is beneficial to increase Naruto's own chakra capacity first. Naruto's seal depends on his chakra to keep the fox at bay. The higher Naruto's chakra is, higher the chances of control over the demon's chakra. That being said, after some rest, you'll exhaust your chakra capacity today. Tomorrow, we'll do the same thing. We'll repeat this procedure until you can control 3 tails worth of chakra without fear of becoming a liability. Naruto didn't remember the last time he suffered from fatigue, without using the fox's chakra, other than when he used his clones to use the Rasengan with one hand. What do you have in mind, Kakashi-sensei? It's quite difficult to tire me out. Not even Ero-sensei managed to do that. Jiraiya-sama is only one man Naruto. This time, both I and Yamato will be attacking you. It will be a jutsu-only battle. You may only defend using ninjutsu. Upon hearing it, even Yamato was shocked. Naruto's chakra capacity was easily 4 times larger than Kakashi's and Yamato's. Yamato doubted that they would be able to maintain the exercise for longer periods of time, at least without some soldier pills. Naruto, for his part, smiled at Kakashi's idea. Ninjutsu was his favorite area of the shinobi arts. With Yugo it was already night time in Konoha and Anbu. Yugo was busy patrolling the village. She heard from the Hokage that Naruto had already returned from his mission, but she couldn't locate him anywhere. It wasn't like him to vanish just like that, without even saying anything to her. She had a few minutes left before another Anbu would replace her. When she passed the Hokage monument, she was surprised by the sudden spike of chakra right on top of the mountain. Quickly climbing the mountain, she was shocked to see both Kakashi and Tenzo attacking Naruto non-stop with every jutsu available. So, he was being trained by Kakashi the entire time, she surmised. She saw both Kakashi and Yamato using the Great Dragon projectile technique at Naruto. The blonde created a fierce hurricane around his body, which managed to block the water dragon. Naruto, then, used some hand seals of his own and used a similar technique, one of his creations, called Water Dragon Fang technique. He aimed it at Tenzo, who lifted a mud barrier to block it. Kakashi took the opportunity and grabbed a lone shuriken and threw it at Naruto, before multiplying it. Naruto used the water barrier technique and used the water for another water dragon technique back at Kakashi. Yugo questioned why they only used ninjutsu. She also could see that both Kakashi and Yamato were losing their abilities to stand, while Naruto remained perfectly fine. It was understandable, though, seeing as her boyfriend's chakra capacity was perhaps higher than Hokage-sama herself. Tenzo tried using another technique, but he was unconscious after the second hand seal, leaving Kakashi alone against Naruto. The man couldn't use his Sharingan and like Yamato, he was at his limit. Naruto, though, didn't appear tired. Of course, she was talking about a man who was able to produce 500 kage bunshin and not tire. Wait Naruto, let's finish this. I don't have enough chakra and Yamato here is already unconscious. Perhaps, I could be of assistance, Kakashi-senpai. Yugo said, upon approaching her senior. I have a debt to settle with my boyfriend. Naruto-kun, it's at least customary to greet me after you return from your mission. The Chunin smiled at his girlfriend as he already knew what would follow. His chakra capacity was already reduced, due to Kakashi and Yamato's fight. Now, he would have to fight Yugo using chakra through his bow staff. Kakashi nodded at the woman, who already grabbed her ninjutsu and attacked Naruto. While this was happening, Kakashi took his last soldier pill and gave it to Yamato. Naruto was, indeed, an endless pit of chakra, there was no better description. Each Junin had 2 soldier pills total. Seeing as the fatigue took over his body, Kakashi closed his eyes as well, next to the sleeping Yamato. Naruto and Yugo saw this, but they paid it little mind. Naruto was gone for far too long and she would take full opportunity of every second with her boyfriend. And she didn't mean training with him. Next day. When Kakashi and Yamato woke up the next day, they saw that Naruto was already up training on his own. Yugo was nowhere to be seen, so Kakashi figured that she was at the Anbu HQ. Little did he know what actually happened while they were asleep. From his distance, he couldn't see Naruto's blush as he remembered what happened, wondering if anyone else heard the couple's moans as they ravished each other. Yugo began to show a much perverted side than usual as she came up with new positions that she wanted to try. The last one, though, was perhaps the weirdest one. He couldn't deny the results, though, as the hormones won the battle of dominance. Naruto was practicing some advanced katas, when Kakashi came to him. I figured that you'd at least sleep a little bit Naruto. What happened last night? As if Naruto would tell him everything, Yugo-chan and I sparred for a while, until she left. I went to sleep soon afterward, Kakashi-sensei. I don't require much, though. Kakashi presumed that his chakra recovery rate was much faster than the regular shinobi, because of the fox. Okay, then, keep it up for a while. This time, we'll let you exhaust your chakra supply with kage bunshins. You'll summon 100 and each will perform jutsus. Naruto nodded, while performing his dance. He focused wind chakra through his bow staff and started to spin it madly. A few seconds later, Kakashi couldn't see the staff spinning. However, he could see the typhoon that was generated from it. The blonde, then, stopped the spin movement, but still focused wind chakra through the weapon. He swung it and sent a wave of slicing wind towards a rock nearby. The rock was sliced in half soon afterward. Wind training involved sharpening your chakra, and Naruto managed that aspect, making him a master of the element. Naruto, then, left his bow staff on the ground and turned to look at the still sleeping Yamato. Yesterday, the three used only jutsus against each other. And while chakra wasn't much concern for Naruto, it was for normal shinobi. Kakashi would be in the same situation if he used the Sharingan. Wouldn't it be best if we waited for Yamato to wake up, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi turned to his Junin partner and sighed in dismay. The man was snoring like crazy and he knew that it would take an entire day for the man to wake up. I'm afraid he will be sleeping the entire day, so I'll be overseeing your training. Also, since you won't be using the fox's chakra, his technique won't be necessary. Now, you can rest for 20 minutes only. After that, you'll be using chakra until night time. Doing as he was told, Naruto summoned an army of clones and told them to perform jutsus, until their chakra was gone. Naruto would, then, summon more as time went by. It was Kakashi's hope that Naruto's chakra capacity ends in more or less 2 hours. Those who didn't know what was going on here, would question why 500 Narutos were performing jutsu after jutsu without any need to. Kakashi could see typhoons, wind swords, jets of water, water barriers, etc. He saw some wind jutsus that he never saw Naruto use before. As instructed, every time a clone vanished, Naruto summoned one more to replace the one that vanished. The time between the substitutions worked well in the end. The information retrieved by the real one was going at a steady pace. An hour and a half later and Naruto was already showing signs of fatigue. Kakashi could only wonder how much time Naruto could manage if he was using the fox's chakra. 15 minutes later, the blonde's eyes threatened to fail him. Finally it took 1 hour and 45 minutes for Naruto to fall on the ground, unconscious. Immediately, Kakashi placed a seal on Naruto's forehead so that the fox can't take this opportunity and escape. This entire idea was Kakashi's and he wouldn't be able to bear the responsibility of freeing the beast. He, then, lifted Naruto's body and placed him next to the sleeping Yamato, before taking a seat on the ground in front of them. Taking a bento box, Kakashi decided to have some lunch, since it would take a while for both to wake up and he was hungry. Afterwards, he supposed it was high time to catch up on some reading. I take it you finally managed to tire him out, senpai? Yugo asked, appearing in front of Kakashi, who didn't take his focus off the bento box. I decided to increase the odds a little bit. Kage Bunshin's wastes a lot of chakra and he's been summoning those and using other jutsus at the same time for almost 2 hours. I doubt that even Jiraiya and Tsunade-sama could accomplish that together. Naruto's chakra capacity is endless. It amazes me that his chakra coils aren't fully developed yet. Without the Kyuubi's chakra, his chakra capacity is easily 4 times as mine. With the fox's chakra, his capacity raises to 100 times my own chakra capacity. Yugo snorted behind her mask. I still wonder what you're attempting by exhausting his chakra capacity, Kakashi-senpai. It's not that he needs to increase the amount. The Yondaime seal is dependent of Naruto's chakra in order to subdue the fox. So, if we increase Naruto's chakra capacity, then he'll have more chances at controlling the third tail stage. Yugo nodded and bid her superior goodbye with the promise of passing by once more tonight. Inside Naruto's mind, oh right fur ball, what's your deal? You said I wouldn't have trouble using 3 tails of power. What was that all about? Right after Naruto was unconscious, his mind went straight to the fox's lair and questioned the damn demon. According to the Kyuubi, Naruto wouldn't feel any animosity from the fox's chakra, upon using the third tail. However, despite the blonde's ability to subdue his urges, Naruto doubted that he could hold the fox's urges for more than 5 minutes. So, naturally, the Chunin demanded some explanations from the 9-tailed demon. Of course, the fox started with its usual chilling laughter, before explaining. Quit complaining, you pathetic piece of meat, you should feel honored to have access to my power. Now, the reason why you weren't able to control 3 tails worth of my chakra was because your chakra coils aren't used to so much of my energy. The first time, at least, was meant for you to adapt to 3 tails worth of power. Naruto frowned at the demon, since this specific information was left out from the previous conversation. He knew, though, that if he was to comment about it, he would receive only laughter as reply. Still, Kyuubi wasn't finished. My chakra is poisonous, brat, but since I'm inside you, you don't have to worry about your coils and tenketsus. The next time it'll be much easier. Oh, and do remember to explain to that dog sensei of yours that little plan of his is useless. The seal may be pumped by your chakra, but it cannot control the malice behind my chakra. Naruto knew this to be true, but he hadn't said anything in hopes that Kakashi would come up with something new. In the end, he managed to practice his jutsus a lot and managed to gather lots and lots of information from his clones. If I find out, you're lying to me, damn fur ball, our deal is off. I'm not that thrilled to be using your chakra anyway. At the Hokage's office it was already night time as Tsunade finished reading the Raikage's letter for the 10th time already. Was considered one of the proudest Kages ever to run Kumogakure, even more than his predecessor was. So, when the man writes a letter wanting to form a temporary alliance towards a common goal, Tsunade had to make sure if she was in a genjutsu instead. Reading once more, she sighed in dismay and remembered how Kumogakure used to be Konoha's worst enemies at the last great shinobi war. What would trigger this proposal, she mused. The letter said that after seeing what Akatsuki was capable of, the Raikage argued that Kumo and Konoha should join forces and deal with the Akatsuki once and for all. Tsunade had half a mind and to accept it right away. But first she needed to look over what was underneath this proposal. Tsunade learned that Naruto caused a lot of trouble for the Raikage's brother and Hachibi Jinchuriki. And according to Kakashi, the Raikage took Konoha's experience in dealing with the Akatsuki into great consideration. Perhaps, the man is hoping that Konoha would deal with the organization once and for all, and with it, save the Nibi and Hachibi Jinchuriki from being captured. No, he wouldn't resort to such cowardly means. The offer was too tempting, though Tsunade also had issues with internal clan business. The affair with the Hyuga clan that caused the death of the Hyuga Hazashi was still fresh in their minds. Quite certainly, they would demand retribution before accepting the alliance and, quite certainly, the Raikage wouldn't approve. The woman turned her neck to her right, before a toad appeared on her desk. She was expecting a letter from Jiraiya, but was surprised when the toad, instead, opened his mouth wide and an arm appeared from it. It was Jiraiya's arm. Within seconds, the Sannin was out of the toad's mouth and he saw Tsunade looking at him with a shocked expression. Suddenly, he remembered that she had yet to see this rather unorthodox method of transportation. Tsunade surpassed it, though, in time. She was hoping that he would explain soon. How was the mission? Did you manage to place the seal? Jiraiya responded the question with a smirk as he remembered what happened. As soon as he found Sasuke, he placed his hand on Sasuke's arm. But the real mission wasn't to harm him or even take him back to Konoha. Imprinted on his hand was a seal created by both Jiraiya and Tsunade. The seal would become a part of Sasuke's chakra system and will activate once Orochimaru attempted to take possession of the Uchiha's body. The seal would prevent the possession as well as release a potent poison inside Orochimaru's system, killing him instantly. It was the strongest poison that Tsunade had in her arsenal, which was lethal against snakes. You expected less from the great Jiraiya of the Sannin. By the look on her face, she was indeed expecting this. Good job. Perhaps, this way, we can prevent Orochimaru from obtaining the Sharingan. Now read this and tell me what you think. Jiraiya caught the letter tossed by Tsunade and read it intently for a while. I think you're in great trouble, that's what I think. Dealing with Akatsuki, in my book, is reason enough to accept it, but, I have to pass this motion to the council and we both know that Hiashi won't accept it. Jiraiya nodded and smiled at her. I'm sure you'll know what to do, now I believe I'll go search for my student and congratulate him for a mission well done. It's not every day one person convinces a man such as the Raikage to propose an alliance and with us no less. I guess it's another one of those circumstances which none of us understand. Tsunade smiled and took a blank scroll. She wrote the order to gather the clan council in 2 days. Jiraiya had already gone after Naruto. Author note well, what you think? Rather small, I know. It served to answer some questions left unanswered from last chapter. I'll begin a different alliance, consisted of Kumo, Konoha and Suna. And it won't be a full-out war like canon, but fights between shinobi. See ya. Thanks for listening, I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.